This lesson is graph inequality in one variable. The goal is to solve and graph inequalities. What you should understand by the end of this lesson is just like properties of equality to solve equations, you can use properties of inequalities to solve inequalities. Alright, quickly we're going to look at 4 types of inequalities. We're going to look at the symbols, the word sentences, and the graphs. The first one, here are the symbols. It says x is greater than 4. That symbol is greater than. We read it, x is greater than 4, and we graph it with an open circle and an arrow pointing to the right. I kind of like to look at it, see how that looks like an arrowhead pointing to the right? There's your arrowhead pointing to the right. Here's the next symbol. It reads x is greater than or equal to 4. Also, the arrowhead is pointing to the right. It's pointing to the right there. This time, the circle is closed. So if the greater than sign is underlined, the circle's closed. Here's our next symbol. It reads x is less than 4. Our arrowhead is pointing to the left. So is this arrowhead, and the circle is open. There's our last symbol. It's read x is less than or equal to 4. Once again, the less than symbol is underlined, so our circle is filled in. Our arrowhead points to the left, so our arrow points to the left here. There are some important inequality words that you're going to see, especially in word problems, and you'll see at least and at most. When you see at least, it means greater than or equal to. For example, I have at least $5. It means I have $5 or more. At most means less than or equal to. I have at most $5, means I could have $5 or I could have less than $5. This says to graph x is less than or equal to 6. So we have an underlined less than sign, which means we have a closed-in circle on 6. The arrowhead points to the left, so our arrow points to the left. Here's your practice 1. Graph x is less than or equal to 1. Practice 2. X is greater than -7. Here is a compound inequality. There are 2 kinds of compound inequalities you're going to see. One is and, one is or. This is an and inequality. When you see and inequalities, they're going to look like barbells, open-ended or closed, but it'll look like barbells. So we're going to look at this one. It says to graph the compound inequality. I like to kind of look at it from the x perspective, and it says x is greater than or equal to 7, and x is less than or equal to 8. So they're both underlined symbols. One is at 7, one is at 8, and because it's an and, they are connected. And that's all there is to an and. Here's your practice 3. I want you to graph this compound inequality. Practice 4. Graph the compound inequality. Here is the or inequality. I like to think of the or inequalities are like the oars on a boat or an oars on a canoe. So they are going to be either open circles or closed circles. And the arrows are going to point away from each other, almost like oars on a canoe. So here we have one. It says to graph the compound inequality. X is less than or equal to 7. And X is greater than 9. So our X, this part of it, is underlined. So I'm going to go to 7 and color in the circle. But on 9, it is not underlined, so it's an open circle. Because it's an or, the arrows point away from each other. So there is the compound inequality graphed. Here's your practice 5. Graph the compound inequality. And practice 6. Graph the compound inequality. All right, you're going to do your 6 practice problems, or you should have done your 6 practice problems. You're going to have them checked. Rate yourself 1, 2, 3, 4 on how well you did on those 6 practice problems. Or go on to IXL. Do your lesson. You ought to be able to master this lesson. It's a pretty easy lesson. And then rate yourself 1, 2, 3, or 4. And that's the end of this lesson. Bye.